Make the sieve waterproof. You have 1 minute, your time starts now.
Oh, well, how are you going to do that? It's full of holes.
Well, thankfully, you've given me a bunch of useless materials. I've got ham, 4 Post-it notes, 1 tissue, and a plastic wallet that you've punched holes in.
Oops.
Is ham waterproof? I think ham is the best bet. Well, I've put ham in a sieve, and then I'll pop the packet in as well for an extra bit of... That might help. We'll put the lone tissue on top of that. That might sort of help with some of the moisture issues. And then maybe we'll pop it in
Your time is up. Stop.
Okay, well, this is what I've got.
Please hold the sieve above your head and pour a cup of water in to check whether or not your waterproofing has worked. Oh.
Oh, yeah, it's not working. It's leaking through the ham. That's a lot of water.
I mean, come on, why did you use ham? That was rubbish.
Well, what would you have done?
Well, I'd have used the tar. It's a waterproof material.
You didn't give me any tar.
Yes, I did. Oh, actually, no. Oh, yeah, it is. It's down here. Oops. Forgot to give it to you. Sorry.
Alan, why did the Taskmaster want me doing this anyway?
Well, it's because of Moses. Now, he is the next guy that God gave a big task to after Joseph. And God protected him as a baby by getting his mum to put him in a basket waterproofed with tar.
Well, that's a whole lot of confusing and very random things. Should we take a look at my silly summary to see what happens in the Bible passage? We'll have a little rewatch of last week's 2 so that you know how we got up to this point. Everything happened just like Joseph had said that it would. After the years of plenty, a great famine hit the land, and Joseph's brothers and their families all ran out of food. They travelled to Egypt to try and buy some food from there, and ended up in front of Joseph.
Hello?
They didn't recognise Joseph, but he recognised them straight away.
Oh my gosh, it's you guys. Not sure I know you.
And after a bit of back and forth, he revealed who he was.
It's me!
And forgave his brothers for selling him as a slave in the first place.
I'm so sorry.
When Pharaoh heard that Joseph's brothers had come, he invited them and all their family to come and live in Egypt.
Oh, I love it. This is a lovely place.
While living in Egypt, Joseph and his brothers had lots of children. And those children had lots of children.
Hello.
And their children, well, they had lots of children.
Hello.
Joseph had completed his task to get God's people, the Israelites, safely into Egypt.
Later.
A few years later, long after Joseph and all of his brothers had died, the Egyptians got a new king.
I crown you King of Egypt.
This new king didn't know about the good things that Joseph had done or why the Israelites had come to Egypt in the first place. He was starting to get worried because there were now more Israelites, God's people, living in the land than Egyptians. And he was scared that if they ever had a fight, the Israelites would win. He decided to make the Israelites slaves to the Egyptians, forcing them to do loads of hard work. But it didn't help. The Israelites just grew in number even more. So the king made a new law.
Kill any newly born Israelites baby boys.
Oh no, that is disgusting.
After this horrible law had been made, Moses was born. Now, obviously, his mum didn't want him to die, so she popped him in a basket and put him in the river. He was soon found by the king's daughter.
Well, what have we here? Oh, it's a little baby.
But she felt sorry for him and decided to adopt him.
You'll be my little boy. Michael, I have a little bit of a problem. You always say how we can sort of learn things from the Bible and that it always applies to our lives, but I've never had to put a baby into a waterproof basket and put it in the river, and I'm pretty sure that didn't happen to me as a baby either.
Well, no, I would hope not. None of us have had that happen. But this passage shows us how God protected Moses. It wasn't a coincidence that he survived. The River Nile was actually a very dangerous place. There could have been crocodiles or big winds or waves or anything could have happened to baby Moses. But he survived.
So God protected him. Well, okay, good for him. Wish God would protect me.
Well, yeah, that's the point. God does protect us too. In fact, Sarah shared an amazing story on Sunday about God protected her son when he was really young.
I have 3 boys. The eldest is Thomas, and Jacob is my middle son, and he was 3 when this happened. And Adam, my youngest son, he was about 8 months. So we were walking with my grandma back up to my mum's house, and the 2 boys, Jacob and Adam, walked ahead of us. And they went round the corner and we couldn't see them for a few minutes. And the next thing I know, I saw Jacob shooting across the road He'd been hit by a car, and the car had pushed him, had nudged him, and he had gone very fast across the road and tumbled. So I picked him up and I took him to the curb, and all the cars stopped and lots of people came out, and the ambulance was called, and I was there sitting on the side of the road holding him. He hadn't been pushed over the top of the car, and he hadn't gone underneath the car, but actually what I think happened, because he should have been much more badly hurt, I think God put an angel between him and the car, and although he was hurt and although it was scary and he was shocked, it could have been so much worse, and I think God protected him at that point. So as I was sitting there on the curb waiting, the ambulance came and the ambulance men were trying to get me to answer questions, and I was a bit shocked. As I was sitting there feeling very alone, suddenly I felt two legs just come around me where I was sitting, and I just felt so much better. And I looked around just quickly, and it was my dad. So my grandmother had walked up to the house and told my mum what had happened, and my dad came down to find us, and he just sat around me and he put his legs around me and he just supported me. He didn't say anything, he didn't answer any of the questions, he couldn't make it better for Jacob, he couldn't make it better for me, but I felt better because he was looking after me. And that is how I see God. God does that for us. King David in the Psalms described God as being like a bird who covers his nest, the bird covers her nest with her wings, and God does that for us. He covers us with his wings. It says, how priceless is your unfailing love, both high and low among men find refuge in the shadow of your wings. And he's talking about God there, and he's saying that doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor or old or young, God will protect you with his wings. And then in Psalm 91 he says, he will cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you will find refuge. So God covers us with his wings. We can't see him, we don't always know he's there, but we have to trust that he is watching over us and he is covering us and keeping us safe. And that's how I see it, just like my dad did.
Isn't that amazing, Coastline kids? God protects us, so we don't need to be afraid. I'm scared of snakes.
Yeah, and I'm scared of bread.
Yeah. What? Anyway, we don't need to be afraid because God protects us. In the Bible, Jesus actually says that we don't need to be scared of anyone or anything. He says that God knows every single little bird, and that if he cares about the little birds, well, you're even more important to him than a bird.
Well, that's great, and it does make me feel good inside, but to be honest, if you were still to get out a piece of bread right now, I'd be terrified.
Yes, I mean, I suppose even though we know this stuff, we can still get scared, even if our fears are a bit crazy, and we don't need to be scared at all, like a fear of bread. But anyway, when we do get scared, I find the best thing to do is to talk to Jesus about it. And sometimes he helps my fears to go away, but sometimes it's just nice to have him to talk to about them. And he can comfort us and tell us that everything's going to be okay.
Oh, that's lovely. Coastline kids, I wonder if you're finding anything particularly scary at the moment. I know I am with bread. Anyway, why don't you tell an adult what it is that you're a bit scared of and ask them to pray with you? Or if there's no adult around, we'd love to pray for you here and now.
Yes, we would. But in fact, the best thing is you just chatting to Jesus about stuff. So let's do some chat and catch now to talk to Jesus and to ask him some things too. We'll start with chatting, and this is the part where we can tell Jesus stuff by saying it in our heads. You can just tell him in your head, he can hear that, or you can whisper it into your hands if you'd like to. Let's all close our eyes together, just so we're not distracted. And then we're going to start by telling Jesus something that we're scared of. So tell Jesus something that you're really scared of. Okay, now tell Jesus something that makes you a bit worried. Tell Jesus something that makes you worried. Brilliant. Now let's tell Jesus our favourite thing about him. So tell Jesus your favourite thing about him. Okay, you can open your eyes again. And now we're going to spend some time catching. This is where we can ask Jesus questions and see if we can catch an answer. But it's not actually that easy to catch an answer. So for me, I've never heard an actual out loud voice,
but usually I get a little thought in my head or a feeling or like a knowing, like I know something, or maybe a picture or a song or a Bible verse. And if it's a good thing, then it might be that it's from God. And that's sort of the way that he likes to speak to us sometimes, rather than in a big loud voice, just through these little things that mean we have to kind of trust him. So if it's a good thing, it might be from God. If it's a bad thing, then it's not from God, and you can ask him again. And if you're still not sure, right, say you get something that's kind of feels like it might be good, but you're like, I don't know if this is from God, you can always ask an adult who knows Jesus. They might be able to help to tell you if it sounds like it might be from God. And also, they might know a little bit more about the Bible, so they might be able to tell you if it fits in with what the Bible says, which is really important. So let's catch. Close your eyes, open your hands, and let's catch together. Okay, firstly then, ask Jesus if there's any times that he has protected you. Jesus, what times have you protected me? Okay, next, ask Jesus what his favourite thing is about you. Remember, it's often just a thought that pops into our head. If it's a good thing, it might be from God. Okay, last thing then, ask Jesus what you should do when you feel scared. Jesus, what should I do when I feel scared? Amazing. Don't worry if you haven't caught anything today. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. Today I did catch something. I caught actually that Jesus said to me that he protected me when I was a baby and when I was in my mummy's tummy. If you didn't catch anything though, don't worry, because you can always do this anytime and keep practicing. The more you practice, the easier you tend to find it. And actually, you can ask Jesus questions and tell him stuff anytime and anywhere, which is great. Amazing. What about when I'm pooping? Gross. But yeah, you can.